It's so nice to meet you, by the way. Thank you so much for your reactions and stuff.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
It's so nice to see. I really genuinely enjoy watching them, and it's so cool what's going on.
It is cool what's going on. You your YouTube channel's growing a lot and people are discovering your music a lot more and it's neat to see. And it's neat to see I've said this in some of the reactions. It's neat to see music right now uh I think in a lot of ways taking a turn back to vulnerability and
Mm.
realism and performances and not programmed together, calculated, tuned sorts of things. And that's what's been so refreshing about. I just did yesterday a reaction to Fingers live.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So that'll be
Is it up
coming out.
yet?
No, I just
Oh,
filmed it yesterday.
amazing.
So the idea is that this interview and that will go up,
Amazing.
around the same time.
I'm very, very happy to be here.
How did you how did you so you found my channel through the Ren reactions, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Ren had I started by reacting to Ren stuff and he left a message. I didn't even really know this until someone on my channel pointed it out, but he's been watching my channel forever. And since 2019, he commented on one of the first videos I did on compression, and I didn't see it until someone pointed it out to me after I did my video on Hi Ren, and then Ren commented on that video. So just
Oh
this
my God.
this interesting thing, like you never know how long people have been watching, and how long things have been happening, but it was really neat to see him comment and follow my channel, and then of course to see your comments on the videos I've done with you in them. Talk about getting started with Ren and that whole process.
So Ren, we met when I remember he went viral like a few years ago. I saw a busking video that he did
Yeah.
with Sam Tompkins, and it was really huge for a while. And I remember seeing that, but then I got a message basically randomly from someone called Ren, and sort of was like, oh, I'll read that later, and then clicked on it, and I was like, oh, oh my God, it's this guy. And
Yeah.
then looked at his profile and was like, God, he's so talented. The message was something like, I can't remember. It was like, I think you're really cool and really talented, and I'd love to work together. Um, no worries if not, I'll just admire from afar. And I
Yeah.
was like, I love that. And then I replied being like, yes, I'd love to work together. And then that weekend I was actually on my way to Brighton to do where Ren is from, to play the Great Escape Festival, which is like a big new music festival in the UK. And so he came and watched my gig there, and then we kind of met up and just decided to do a few songs together. And then we were on the same management for a while as well, which was just, yeah, which was like, it meant it was very easy to work together a lot and to be in the same. So we just kind of became like siblings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. Talk about the experience of doing chalk outlines. That performance, I mean, How to Be Me is amazing too, but how did that work, you guys preparing for that shoot? It's live, it's interactive, you guys are staring at each other, and when you guys lock eyes, there's just something that happens it just chills. I know a lot of people. But what did that look like in practicality in terms of like preparation, and how many times did you do the song, and is that the 50th take or the first take that we're watching?
We did do quite a few takes.
Uh-huh.
I think with Ren and me, we just have quite a similar like DNA in the way that we perform. And I think like I don't think either of us ever said like, let's look at each other in the eyes. Like
Yeah.
neither of us, it's never, I don't think it's something that we were really aware of or that we planned. It was just like, oh, let's shoot a live video for this. And then kind of like on the day we sort of like marked it out and worked out how to do it. Um and then the eye contact thing, I guess it just felt really natural. Like it's like I do think that we have a really a similar, a different but similar way that we perform. And it's like quite like it's very intense and like very emotional. And I think that just it just was like very natural. Like it kind of was, yeah, I think if you tried to plan something like
Yeah.
that, it would probably take away from the authenticity of it. And I think it was quite natural how it all happened.
Something that gets me when I watch performances like that is, you have these coordinated runs up where you're doing these harmonies and things are locked in from a musical perspective so much, and that takes rehearsing, that takes practice and planning there. And there's this balance of well, we want to have, we don't know what we're doing from a musical standpoint, but we don't want to get to the point to where it's so like, oh, we got to hit these notes, we got to do these things, that it becomes so tight and sterile so that those moments of spontaneous eye contact still happen, right? How do you, it's probably something that you don't think about too much, but I know from performing myself that you can over practice and over rehearse and over plan. How do you know how far to go in terms of preparation so that you still keep things lively and unpredictable?
I think interestingly what you're saying about like it's not always perfectly in tune, it's not
Yeah.
always it's more about the emotion of it. And I think that is also something that me and Ren are quite similar in. Like I don't think we are focused on like getting the vocals right when we're singing. I think it's more about like the emotion.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I guess with rehearsing it's less about like, okay, let's get this perfect, like we put time into it, we
Sure.
do, but it's less about, okay, let's get this perfectly, like, no, you were flat on that, like let's go again. Or it's more about like, did the emotion feel right in that bit?
Yeah.
And then I think in rehearsals it's kind of like, once we've sorted out the structure, we're like, okay, cool, we know what we're doing, that we kind
Yeah.
of leave it there. We don't like hammer it until it's like perfectly, like, I think it's, you want to leave some of that, like, because yeah, if you overdo the rehearsals, I think it can, on the day it can feel a bit like, you know
Uh-huh.
like the soul has been sucked out of it because we're both like, oh, this song.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it was, yeah.
Like, well, or you think about some of the more overproduced concerts and stuff where you have spike tape and you're trying to go to like one particular part on the stage and turn left and look at the guy on the right, all that stuff. You guys, there's just this incredible amount of spontaneity that comes across. And I've noticed that, and I've pointed them out in the videos I've done. She went a little bit sharper on that note, and you couldn't redo that. You couldn't do that ever again. But because of that, it's even more special.
I
And
love that you think of it as a good thing.
yeah,
By the way, I'm like, thank God he thought that it was good that I got that note wrong.
well, I don't know,
I
wrong,
love
right?
that
Like, what
it's
is wrong? If it
true.
like punches you in the face and it's a little off, then great, right?
Yeah.
Well, you guys both. I think part of this is you guys both got your start in busking, and doing. When did you start? You didn't.
Actually, I didn't. I had never busked until I busked with Ren.
Oh.
He was really like, he was a well-versed busker.
Yeah.
And I had never done it. And I'd done a lot of live shows, but never busking. And when we busked, I was like so nervous, more nervous than a lot of gigs. Like I'd done I toured with Sting and stuff, and I supported Sting on tour. I'd done like big arena
Yeah.
shows, I'm trying to say. And then I went to busk and I was like, I'm so terrified. I was so anxious about it. I was so nervous. And I think it's a totally different skill. Like, and it's really fun. I had the best time, but I was so nervous because it's such a different skill. It's like um you have to be so good at being spontaneous and being like just going with it and being like relaxed and
Yeah.
talking to an audience who sort of care, but are sort of just walking past a lot of them and
Right.
like, um, and it's just a completely different skill set. I don't know. It was really, I don't know why I felt so nervous about it, but once we got into it, I was like, I don't want to stop doing this. I want to do it all day. It was so fun. And I think, doing it with Ren, like he knows what he's doing and he just made me feel super comfortable. And um, yeah, it's just a different type of life that it gives a performance. I loved it.
So once you got into it and got comfortable, where in which environment are you more comfortable with your singing? In the big show or in the busking or the smaller stuff?
Busking.
You're more comfortable with your singing and busking now.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I still haven't done it a lot. I only did it with Ren.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I think, in like a big show, when everything is so planned out and it's all like, you know, like you were just saying, and you have tape of where to stand and you're like, you've marked it all and you're playing to a click track and it's
Yeah.
all like, there's no room for like, um, there's not much room for as much spontaneity. I think it's you are more focused on getting everything right,
Yeah.
and I think with busking, like when I'm less focused on getting everything right, I get more right.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
yeah, because I think when you're, if you overthink a note too much and you're like, oh, am I gonna hit it, am I gonna hit it, and then
Absolutely.
it's a hit and miss. But if you kind of just relax your actual vocal cords, like I think you naturally hit the note better anyway. And it's just, I don't know, something about busking. I was like, this is good. Like this
Yeah.
is a good time. And I felt like I sang well and like it was just very relaxed.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear you say some of those same things. I talk about that on the channel all the time about, if you just relax into it and have fun and become a character, an alternate version of yourself, then there's nobody to judge you, right?
Yeah.
It's you're being an alternate being who is performing and doing all of these things, and you're not accountable to anybody. And as a result, you do things that the normal you couldn't do because the normal you is too concerned about being judged or getting things right or succeeding.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I was in like a choir at school for a bit and I had this teacher who, the like choir teacher, and I remember them saying if you go to sing a high note, if you imagine you're about to sing a low one, do
Yeah.
you know this?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like say yeah, it's like if you imagine you're doing a low one, you hit the high one way better.
Yeah.
And if you imagine you're singing a low note when you're singing a high note, it's like, and it works. I don't know why
Yeah.
it works,
Yeah.
but it's weird. I think, yeah, we get so in our heads about like hitting high notes. And honestly, it's so, I get it with so many things. I get it when I record songs. Like I'll have a demo for a while and then I'll go to record the proper vocals for it. And every time I'll end up being like, oh, it takes me ages because I'm like, I can't get it the same. And it's just, I've just overthought it so much. And whereas on the day that I wrote it, in the recording that I've sat with for ages, it's like it was in the moment and I felt it so much. And I guess like when you go to re-record it, you've got used to it and you don't feel as much, you don't feel as strong emotions for it anymore, and it's harder to get it right.
Right.
It's it's such a curse.
Yeah. Yeah. Overthinking is horrible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had listened and watched Fingers the studio recording, and I did that shortly after I did the chalk outlines video that I did for Ren, and started going through, but did not watch the Fingers live until I did the video on it, and was just blown away at having sat with the studio recording for a while. I guess what I'm hearing in those two performances, some of what you're articulating here about how like the studio one was good, but the live version, I want to hear sort of the behind the scenes on that. The way that you capture the improvisational stuff at the end, and you build up to that climax, and then you do the da, da, the end an octave higher than you even did it on the studio recording. There's so many things about that performance that just, I mean, punched me in the gut, leaving me feeling
Oh,
oh, I can't believe how good this is and how free you were. And I talk about that in the recording, or in the reaction I did. You are totally abandoned into this innocent yet sneakily devious and harmful character, and going back and forth between them. Talk about adapting that to the live version.
so it was I think live has always been where I've come alive, ironically. And I think um with that specific performance, I had that because I did it with Hunger magazine.
Yeah.
And I had single Fingers was my most recent single. So when they were like, "Oh, what song do you want to perform?" I remember thinking like, "How am I going to do?" Because they wanted it acoustic, and I was
Yeah.
like, how am I gonna do that song acoustically?"
Yeah.
So I met with the keys player, and we were just like playing around with ideas, and we just ended up being like, let's just make this completely different.
Yeah.
This is a sad song. And I love that about songwriting as well, that you don't sometimes realize something is a sad song or has so much emotion in it because it's produced in a certain way. And then when you strip it back, it's like, oh my God, I've just realized what this is about, kind of thing. And
Right.
yeah, yeah, I loved that. I loved like putting it together with my keys player, and um it was amazing. And I think like we both felt this like real emotion from it then, that I hadn't necessarily had before with that song.
Uh-huh.
And I think, the outro on the live version, where I say, "So keep them close to you, put your keys in your knuckles like I have to."
Uh-huh.
That was like literally, it was like, sometimes I think there's like magic moments in music. And honestly, we were in this room, me and my keys player, like we were just like playing on a shitty keyboard, like, and we he just was playing the chords, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like keep playing that." And then I honestly, like, it just came out of my mouth, and we were both like, "Wait, what?" And
Yeah.
I was like, I think it was around the time that the Me Too movement was very like
Sure.
in its having its big, time. And I just had it so much on the brain. And I think that song then became a lot, it became even more empowering for me. And I think,
Sure.
honestly, it was like living in my subconscious. And then I sang it like in real time, and I have the recording on it. I have like a voice memo of when I sang it, and then we were both like stopped and were like, we should do that. We should put that in at the end. Like it can just be an outro
Oh,
to the live version.
that'd be fun to
And I
hear.
think it's like my favorite, it's one of my favorite lines. And I think a lot of people, when they see that video, that's the bit that they comment on. It's like that last line, because I think it
Mm-hmm.
it like touches people, especially women who, it's a big well-known thing. Every woman has walked home with their keys in their knuckles, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I get all caught up in the vocal technique and performance and nerding out on little nuances, and oftentimes
Love that.
on first listen, I I sort of miss the lyrics and miss some of the other things because I'm so focused on like, oh, did you hear that? And one of the things that I really picked up on with that video, or with that performance in particular, was your ability to breathe in and out of your notes and have this rasp and this sheen over these pitches. And then that's sort of the self-protected, I'm about to kill someone character. And then when you start belting, you lose that sheen, and that sheen is replaced with this uncontainable power. And I just loved seeing that
Yeah.
contrast there. I wanted to ask you, I know that you've said on comments before that you don't really think too much about your voice, but And I think that's the case for a lot of singers. They just kind of go for it, acting off of pure emotion. But how did you work your voice into a state over the years where you could practice, where you could do what you do? There had to have been some practicing and some intentional introspection to get where you're at. What did that look like in your younger years?
I wonder if it's because I have quite a wide like music taste.
Yeah.
I think I've always loved, I love big belty voices. I love them so much. And I always listen to them. Like I grew up listening to them. I've always been obsessed with like um, big
Who
vocalists.
are some of your
Solely
heroes growing up?
Beyonce,
Yeah.
Janis Joplin, Etta James,
Uh-huh.
um, like Christina Aguilera, Jessie J, um, big female voices, you know.
We had someone ask about Linda Ronstadt. Did you ever get into Linda Ronstadt?
I actually don't know who that is.
Oh, okay. Well, then no, but you should check
Oh
her out.
no, but
She's
I
cool.
should.
Yeah, yeah. What about Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston?
Yes, yes, Aretha Franklin. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't say her before. Yes, Aretha Franklin. I actually had a little solo crying party when she died.
Yeah,
I just cried to myself and watched videos of her and was just crying in my bed, like,
yeah.
because she was amazing. I loved her so much.
I totally hear like part Aretha Franklin in your belts. Uh,
Wow, that's so nice. Thank you.
but you have this sinister. I better watch out, even just when listening. Which is I love that. I love that about the way that you're able to carry the listener like that. So anyway,
Thank you.
we were talking about influences and then what you have done to get your voice to where it's at.
I actually had a really specific moment in my life when my voice kind of changed. I remember I had basically gone on holiday. I maybe my balls dropped or something, like in some way. But I went on holiday. I had a singing lesson. I maybe was like 15, something like
Okay.
that. 16, I don't know. Went had a singing lesson before, went on holiday, and the Burlesque, Burlesque, the Christina Aguilera
Yeah.
share film, that had just come out, and I was obsessed with it. I loved it, and I loved the soundtrack. And I literally was in on just like a family summer holiday, and I was listening to it the whole time, like by the pool, like, and I was singing it the whole time. Like
Uh-huh.
the whole time, I was like doing all the runs and stuff, trying to get them. I was trying to belt. And I came home from that holiday, and I swear my voice had changed into like this like big voice. And I remember thinking it and I was like, oh no, I must be like delusional about this. But I went back to my singing teacher. So it was probably a week and a half in between the lessons. And he was like,
What happened?
your voice has really come on. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's what I thought.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and he was like, yeah, it's like you've really matured suddenly. And I was like, I know, that's kind of what I thought. And I think it was a bit of a turning point. Like I was always really shy growing up, and I had a lot of, like people would sort of make fun of me because I always said sorry after everything. Like I remember walking past I brushed past like a tree once,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh sorry, just naturally sorry. And then someone was like, I can't, how have you just apologized to a tree and stuff?
Yeah.
And I think I was just quite, yeah, I was just quite shy, and like, unless I knew people well, and then I was like very confident. But I think the big voice, it was like I'd had it inside, but it just hadn't come out yet. And I think, yeah, it was like it was weird. It was a bit of a turning point, and maybe I found my empowerment in that album. Um, yeah.
Yeah, musing over Christina uh, in a playful way where there wasn't any sort of obligation to you, and really getting into that passionately. Your voice accidentally exposed itself to you, and then from there it was just, oh, I can do this. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool. Wow.
And
So
then I think with the softer stuff, like I've always also loved like I guess I love pop music and I
yeah,
love you know the softer, really gentle, vulnerable, almost whisper singing.
yeah,
Uh,
right.
and I think just because I loved all these things, I guess I just was like, well, I'll just do all of them.
Yeah.
I'll just learn all of them. And then I guess the more I did it, the more I wrote it into my songs, the more I performed it live, and then I guess I just got better at that.
I think that's the intrigue for me with your singing, particularly the live stuff, is that you are one of the fewer vocalists out there that is doing both really, really well, and in one
Thank
song,
you.
and with this darker sort of deranged uh, atmosphere around it. I love that. There's a lot more music out there that feels too curated or too planned, sterile because of it, and Fingers live and the stuff you've done with Ren is the antithesis of that. There's this instant connection because there's vulnerability, there's realism, there's, and, you know, an example of this is when you're talking about the line with the keys at the end, right? Like these are things that you that you're putting in because they mean something to you, not because you're trying to make a great song. And your stuff drips with that. And that's that I think that's what makes it so cool. Talk
Thank you
about
very much.
the production and performance aspects of Fingers Live. You are at the same time you have this sort of raw approach to the singing and the songwriting. You're dressed up in all sorts of stuff, and you've definitely got the vibe and the character there. Do you find that the dress up and the makeup and the planning in that regard adds to or takes away from the ability to be spontaneous and energetic in the moment? And
I think it adds to it. Actually, I know it adds to it. I think I it's a bit like putting on your uniform,
yeah,
you
okay,
know, and I think I um if I'm not the nails I wear, usually not today, but the nails I wear are really long, and I think something about them, it really adds like I feel empowered when I wear them. A lot of everything I wear is like and do and sing is about feeling empowered, I think.
yeah,
And you know, those nails, like, I mean, they literally elongate your fingers. So
right,
every time you point, it's like strong. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think,
uh
and sometimes it's harder to then perform without them because I'm like, oh,
huh.
I just have little stubby fingers. And yeah, and I think, I don't know, I guess there's something about feeling like grand that I love. Like I've always loved fashion and I love being creative with clothing and things. And I make most of my hats that I wear. So the hat
Oh,
in the
cool,
Fingers video, I actually made that. And
wow.
yeah, and I just love it. And I feel like music, there's so much space for creativity and so many different angles with it. It's like, why not go for it
Yeah.
and sort of use what you can do and have a good time with it, every aspect of it.
Well,
Because it
even
yeah.
as I was asking that question, I thought about what we were talking about earlier about, you know, putting on these characters. And that's exactly what this is, right? Like you're entering by putting on these nails and putting on homemade hats, you're entering into this alternate character that
I would say it's entering into a different um aspect of my personality.
okay,
That's how I would describe it. So it's
that's
like
cool.
I think it gives me the permission
Yeah.
to step into that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
Sometimes I struggle with like a lot of people say like, oh, the alter ego and stuff. And I think I don't know why it bothers me, but I guess I think it's like, oh no, it's not an alter ego because it's definitely me. It's just like
A different
it's
part of
like
you.
I have permission at that moment to be like to you know to have to show those aspects of my character, which are, and I think everyone has those aspects, the
Yeah.
you know the anger that doesn't come out, or the anger that you've been holding in for a while, or you know like, or sadness that you've been holding in that's pent up, or um humor, like
Yeah.
vulnerability. I am now fully independent. I left my management and label last year. I split with my management label, and I'm now fully independent, and I have just been working on a bunch of new music. And I this year is going to be the year of new music for me, so
Yeah.
I've got lots of stuff coming. And I just announced my like comeback single, really.
Uh-huh.
And it's called Little Girl Gone, and it's basically just like a really angry, big, um empowered, like it just is a song. And I started teasing it on TikTok, so I put up a teaser video for it that just had the chorus in it
Yeah.
a week ago.
Okay.
And fully expecting it to get like 6 views, and it got a million in under
That's
24 hours. It was on a
so
million, and
awesome.
I looked at my phone and was like, what the fuck? And it just has kept growing since there. So now like all the teasers have got about 10 million views between them.
Oh, it's awesome.
I went from 16,000 followers on TikTok to I think it's like 170,000 today. Um, in a week. It's been a week and a day, I think. And yeah, it's just kind of like, well, it feels like my life has suddenly like done a big switch up and everything. I mean, musically, it's like the most. I can't even describe how like rewarding and satisfying it is, and
Right.
um, it's just so nice. It's so nice, and it's all like a lot of the uh, a lot of the comments and people that it's resonating with are women who feel this. I think there's a lot of like pent up anger, you know,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of women who feel who've been through a lot of trauma and things and are really resonating with the like liberating anger that the song kind of has in it. And it's just so nice. It's literally so nice. I keep crying, like
Oh.
it's amazing. I've never experienced anything like it.
Well, I haven't heard I haven't heard it yet, but you deserve what you've gotten and what's coming. Uh,
Thank
the
you.
the freshness and energy that you're putting out there is just absolutely incredible, and it's
Well,
so
thank you so much.
so wonderfully refreshing. Are there any collaborations with this new music? Anything that you can talk about?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll be working with some cool people though.
Yeah. And
That's all I'm gonna say.
to be more direct, and this question isn't coming directly from me, although I do want to know, but
Right.
will there be any more collaborations with Ren?
I thought that might be what. We'll do stuff. We'll do stuff together in the future.
Yeah. That's all you can say
He's
right now.
he's in yeah, that's all I
Yeah.
can say right now. He's
Yeah.
in Canada at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we're always, you know, we're always chatting and things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. What in your past, in your upbringing, in your life has led you to expressing yourself in this way that so many people are relating to right now?
I think solely being a woman, like you have been through it. And I
Mm,
think I can't speak I everything I speak for in myself, I feel like a lot of women would relate to it. Um, I was, you know, as I said earlier, I was quite shy growing up. I was quite quiet, with people who didn't know me.
yeah.
And my mum always tells this story that we would go to like a friend's house or something, and I would literally hide behind her leg and not say anything and just
Hmm.
stare at them, and they'd be like, "Hi, hello," like
Yeah.
hello, and I would look at them like this,
Right.
like no reaction. I was just like, I'm just not going to talk.
Uh-huh.
And then they'd be like, "Do you want a drink? Do you want a drink?" And I would like stare at them and then just whisper to my mum what I wanted to drink, and then they would like, I was just so shy, I think. And um yeah, I think I don't know where it comes from exactly, but I think I've always been quite a people pleaser, and I think I'm quite susceptible to being I guess being uh I don't know even the words, you know, talked down to, and just being
Okay.
like, I don't know how to. I think when something like that happens, I'm not. I struggle with how to cope with it in the moment,
Uh-huh.
and I think I find myself in a lot of situations in my life, and I'm sure a lot of people do, loads of people, where I'm walking away from a situation thinking of all the things that I should have said or wanted to say
Mm-hmm.
and didn't, because and I wouldn't, if I was given the chance again, I still would, like keep my mouth shut. Or you're in a position where you can't stand up for yourself because someone is a higher authority,
Yeah.
or or you just don't want to have a horrible hostile situation where you create an argument. And I think, like I feel that I'm really I feel that really strongly, that feeling of um not being able to, just
Yeah.
biting your tongue. And I think I yeah, a lot of my music is about
Not biting your tongue.
all the things I wish I
Right.
should have or could have said.
Yeah.
um and I think that's what people resonate with. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's why it's so special to me when people comment things like that about their own stories and things. And I'm like, I feel you. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's yeah, I just think it's this universal feeling of like people know that, and yeah.
Well, not only do you come across as like these are all the things that I wish I would have said, sort of thing, but you in your performances and even in the words and the stories you tell, um, it's very hyperbolic. I mean, you're dialing up. You're doing things in your songs that wouldn't just create this hot, conflict or whatever, but they would be completely, completely inappropriate. But you can put those in music. You can put those in the
Yeah.
song, and it does the same thing that it does for everybody, right? Like you wouldn't really go cut people's fingers off, but the just the thought of it and the way that you look, even when you go from this sort of calculated to this, as you're singing. I mean, we've all done that inside. We've all gone from this frustrated, reserved, pent up to losing it, completely insane.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's such an artistic, relatable thing, and done in such a clever way. Um,
It's funny. It's so funny listening to you like analyze it, because
yeah.
it's so interesting, but it's also stuff that I don't even, half the time I don't even realize like I'm doing it, or it'll be like it's just like instinctive. I
Uh
guess it's just
huh.
the way that I perform. And like it's yeah, it's weird. It's really it's just really like surreal and interesting hearing you talk about it.
What's fun with singers like you is that I know that for the most part it's instinctual.
Mm,
Um, but there are so many vocalists or so many people out there who want to be singers that have the same emotions, that have gone through similar experiences, but when they open their mouth to try to express, and they have the desire to express through their voice, doesn't come out like what you're doing. In fact, they shut down. Where you feel liberated and empowered to express with your voice, they are afraid and as a result reserved, and then they try something and it doesn't sound right or it doesn't feel like it should, and then they almost feel like their voices don't free them. Their voices trap them. And I think that's what I find so interesting. There's this dichotomy of people who, we all have these same emotions and these same stories and can relate to these same things, but certain people naturally stumble into being able to express like you're able to. And certain people, they just, how do I get there? And they think that, oh, how I get there is first I have to be good and then I can express. First I have to, I gotta do these exercises. I gotta figure out how to do, I got to go through this program or take a bunch of voice lessons or whatever. And you said you did take lessons, but you also said earlier that the moment where you really found your voice, it wasn't because of what you'd studied. It was because of what you were immersing yourself in and how you had experimented with it. And then you were freed. What advice, though, would you give to people, given what you've gone through with your own voice, in how to find that level of self-expression so that you can enter into a musical environment and just go?
Oh, that is a hard one. I think more is more.
More? Wow.
More is more.
More is more. Yngwie Malmsteen.
But it's not always true. It's definitely not always true, actually. I completely disagree with what I just said. But I do think, like, especially when you're being watched, like it's a performance or it's being filmed, is even more like, I think, I've done a couple of live videos and things, and it's like, I think watching them back, I think actually that's a good thing. I think watching yourself back is a really good tactic, because you always think you're doing more than you are.
Yeah.
And
yep.
And actually, like half the time you're going to be standing a little bit. Just, I think if you're nervous, you naturally are more insular. You're more like, and so if you watch it back, you can kind of be like, oh no, that I need to like
exaggerate more.
I remember one specific live video I did where I thought I was going like this with my arms, like this.
Yeah.
And actually they were like here.
And
I was like, wow, really interesting that I naturally thought like my arms were really like powerful out here, and actually they were just almost beside my body, and it was like really small, the gesture. And I think there's just so much, and I think like I always film everything, because when I watch it back is the best way I can ever learn from anything.
Yeah. You're watching and listening, so you have this.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is the time to judge or learn from yourself is not while you're singing, while you're filming the video, while you're performing. The time to do it is when you're watching it back. And if you can separate those things, so fully abandon into the moment, give yourself to the moment of singing, performing, filming, whatever it is, without judgment. You're not judging yourself then. You're not afraid that you're going to not hit the note or that you're going to do whatever, forget the words. You're not afraid of any of that. You're just going for it and abandoning into this moment. And then, because of that, you can give yourself permission to learn from what you did and then apply that to the next time. It's that separation. And you are a living example of this. You are fully abandoned when you're doing things. We can see that. I love hearing that you watch it back then and go, oh yeah, well, I could I could do this differently. I could do this. You know what? I'm going to be more expressive or less do this a little bit. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
always, always. And I can't if I it's like I'll watch a whole gig. I'll do a full gig, a half an hour set.
Uh-huh.
I'll get home and watch the entire 30-minute set, like
Yeah.
because I'm like, and then I'll watch it again, you know? Um, I think, oh, what was I gonna say? I do find it really interesting, this. I can't remember what I was gonna say. Carry on.
Okay. How does this watching back and listening back, you're critiquing your performances, right? You were talking about your
I
hands.
remember.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's to do with this. I was going to say, I think a big part of it, I'm super critical when I watch those, when I watch myself back, but also I think a big part of it is being like, that looks so good.
Uh-huh.
Or like, that sounded great. And then you're way more confident because, when you do that specific part in a song next time, next gig or whatever, you're like, I know this bit is good because I've literally seen it and I know it's good.
So you're calling out the victories. You're giving yourself an opportunity to pat yourself on the back and say, that was amazing. In addition to the critiques or whatever, you're not being hard on yourself only. And I would imagine that you're probably, you know, what is that? The compliment sandwich or what? No, that's not what it is. Where you have like, you have the compliment and then you have the suggestions and all the critiques and then you follow it up with another compliment. And then you're probably doing quite a bit of that where you're rewarding yourself and critiquing yourself at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's self-analysis really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you never meet yourself because you are yourself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of trying to understand, I think, how other people are seeing you as well. It can get a bit obsessive, I guess, but um I think it's interesting and I think it's, the more you know, the more powerful you are in some ways, you know?
Totally. Yeah. It helps you. The more you know, I like that. It creates a self-awareness that you can work with.
And especially when there's so much hate,
Uh-huh.
on every video there'll be hate.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I guess if you can build up uh, your belief in yourself to the extent that you're like, but I know that bit was good.
Uh-huh.
Or oh no, all right, yeah, they're right about that bit or whatever. But I do like that other bit, and I don't think that's fair. I don't know if you can really try and like love yourself in parts, at least parts of your performances and stuff. I think that's a really I'm still working on it,
Yeah.
but it's
Oh, it's a
it's a
struggle, I'm
good
sure.
thing to be able to do. Yeah.
Yeah. How much of when you're watching and listening back is particularly focused on your vocal performance or your vocal delivery uh, versus the the rest of it, right? Or is it inseparable from that?
I think actually a lot of what I focus on is my vocals when I watch it back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I'm kind of like so in the moment when I'm performing it
Yep.
that I'm not, how we've been talking about it already, but
Yeah.
how I'm not too focused on getting all the notes right and whatever and making sure it's technically like 100% there.
Yeah.
Then when I watch it back, some things will feel good in a room as well. And then like when
Yeah.
you watch it back, you're like, oh God, that note was terrible. Like I don't know how people even applauded that. Like,
Yeah.
and I think yeah, those are that's where I'm super critical, I think, of myself is in the actual
Do
the
you
actual vocals.
do you cringe sometimes when you listen back to yourself? And
Yeah.
how do you channel that into not then being fearful the next time you go out to record? Because that's a feedback loop that a lot of vocalists get into. Is like, well, I heard myself back, I watched myself, and oh, it sounded terrible. So then when they go the next time, they are so afraid of sounding terrible, they can't abandon into the moment again. Have you ever found yourself in that loop?
I have, yeah. I have because I think Um, it's usually like if it's a big long, if it's a really high belted long note, I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to nail that and I need to hit it because if I don't, it's super embarrassing.
Right.
And it's like, like you're making a statement to do a note like that. So if you don't hit it, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
that was very cool. And like there's been times when I've watched stuff back, especially like if you're on tour and you're doing it every night. There's
Hmm.
there's some that are just super bad, and I think, um, yeah, when I watch them back, I think it helps. It does help because I think when sometimes I'm so caught up in the performance that actually the vocals, I feel like I just go for it, and sometimes you do have to be like, okay, you have got a big note coming up. You need to sort of like make sure that you have enough breath for that moment or whatever. And I
Sure.
think sometimes it reminds me, like if I see a video where I was a bit pitchy on a note or something, I'll have that in my head for the next gig and be like, I'll remember. I'll be like, make sure you get this bit right because
Yeah.
last time you were a little bit flat on it or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so that's good. It helps me. But I do have it sometimes, if I've done it more than once where I haven't been able to do it very well, sometimes it gets in my head and then I overthink it and then it
Yep.
can actually that will mess up the note. Or I'll
Yep.
or I'll avoid doing it altogether and change the part or
Hmm.
something. And yeah, it's a bad loop to get into.
Well, I heard you say something about, you might change something, or if you've had a couple times where it's been bad, and uh especially when you're on tour, there's this aspect of like, well, I have to do this for, so many nights in a row, or whatever. How are you budgeting your voice so that you can do things consistently? It's probably a combination of changing some things, or going real hard one night and not so much the next night, or I'm sure it's also partly in the writing of how well, I've got to perform all these songs together. They can't all be I only have so many money notes in me. Talk a little bit about that. The pacing that you have to go through to get through things.
I think I'm still working that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I've been on tours, it's difficult, you know. I think it's a lot of it's in the set list. Like I'll try and make sure that I have like some down numbers, or like I'll put a long speaking section after a really, really crazy song or something, and
Yeah.
I'll just like get my breath back for a while and then do like a ballad, which is kind of still hard to sing, but a bit slower.
Right.
um, but most of my songs are kind of like it's funny when I'm working with my band in a rehearsal and we're trying to like make a set list. It's like, okay, let's put an easy song here.
Yeah.
And then we're all like, there aren't really any there aren't really any easy songs because I feel like every time I write a song, I'm like, and now for the big moment.
Yeah.
um or especially in a live arrangement, I'm like, there needs to be a big moment. But no, yeah, it's like it's difficult to pace. I think I also have it in performing. Like I wear now, if I go on tour, I wear knee pads every night on stage
Oh, wow.
under my trousers because I was really, really messing up my knees for a while. I would drop onto them and I'd like walk across the stage on my
Yeah.
knee because I just get so into it. And it's
Yeah.
not like it wasn't an option to be like, I need to stop doing that because I said that. And then in the moment would come and I'd be like, I don't care about my knees.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it anyway. And then I'd be like not able to walk properly for like a week, and I couldn't do like any lunges or squats or anything at the gym because my knees were so weak from it
Yeah.
for months. And so things like that, and also like the nails I wear, like the glue that sticks them on, I have to um I got a different glue because I was like ripping off my nail beds every night, not
Oh,
my
geez.
actual nail beds,
Yeah.
but I just thought that it came to a point where I was like, okay, I need to physically take a bit more take like look after myself a bit more. I also never ever drink anything the night before a show, drink any alcohol or anything, or smoke or anything like that. I'm quite like I love vocal zones. I'm always eating vocal zones. They're like, do you know vocal zones?
No.
Oh, they're amazing. Maybe they're a UK thing. I'm not sure, but they're like these they're basically like little sweets for like they're really menthol.
Like 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 the. You're probably just using a different word. Like these are lozenges, like
Yeah.
cough drops, sort of thing. Like these have lemon and
Yeah,
honey
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff in
that
them.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And
Yes,
then
I do have those.
yeah,
What are you
they're
calling them?
amazing.
What are you calling them?
Vocal zones. They're
Vocal
specifically for
zones.
vocals.
Oh no, so I don't have that brand or that. I'll have to look into them. That's
I'm
cool.
actually I'm gonna send you some
Okay.
because they're amazing. They're so good. You have to know about them.
Yeah.
Um, I like live off them on tour when I'm recording.
Oh
Like
wow.
anytime I need to sing, I'm like, where are the vocal zones? Um, yeah, lemon and honey. I try not to drink like any coffee or anything before I go on because of just anything like stodgy that's too, yeah.
So you said you don't smoke before the shows. Are you a smoker? Do you smoke some?
Sometimes socially,
Yeah. And do you find
but
any interaction with your voice that is lasting, or is it no big deal?
um, I think it's more in my head.
Hmm.
But like when I'll smoke sometimes, like, but then if I have something coming up, so for example, um, I'm just very good at like being like, okay, no, I'm not going to do anything now
Yeah.
for, I can switch it off. I'm lucky that I don't get addicted to it easily, I think.
Yeah.
So for example, I have a music video that I'm shooting in a few days, and I just a few days ago was like, right, I'm not going to drink coffee anymore
Oh
until
yeah, that's good.
I shot the music video. I'm also not going to drink or smoke or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah,
so you
I
don't have
think
any
I'm
vices. You can enjoy things when you want to enjoy them and put your mind at ease a little bit, but you don't have to do it. That's really awesome. That's
well, yeah, sometimes. Coffee's like probably I love a coffee actually,
yeah.
but sometimes it makes me anxious.
Yeah, coffee
So
makes me really anxious. I have to do I
that's actually why I'm not drinking it at the moment because music videos are just so stressful. Like there's so much to plan, and I'm like I can't afford to be more anxious than I already am.
right? What was it like opening for Sting?
Sting, it was awesome. It was like I always call it definition deep end. Like it was severe deep end,
Yeah.
going from have never having never done anything like that to like big arenas, and it was very random pairing. um but it was amazing. It was amazing. His team were so lovely. Like they just really looked after us. They had um no egos. Like they were just really welcoming and wanted to help us out as much as they could, and
Hmm.
no one was like, oh, this is our person. Like they were
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, they were just so nice, and it was such a nice experience, and it was amazing. I was lucky because I did the Eastern European leg of the tour,
Uh-huh.
so I did 4 shows with him, and and I think the first show I was like purely nervous, um to the point where I didn't enjoy it really,
Yeah.
because I was so nervous and I just was trying to get through it and do it right. The second show I was like really nervous, but I was like, okay, I enjoyed that one a bit.
Yeah.
And then the third show I was like, oh no, I'm starting to really enjoy it. And by the fourth show it was like, okay, I purely enjoyed that, and obviously I was nervous, but it wasn't like to the point where it was like crippling.
Right.
um it was like boot camp of music industry boot camp. Like it was insane and it was amazing. It
What
was
would
so amazing.
what would you say one of your main takeaways was coming off of that? Like what do you carry with you from that experience into everything you're doing now?
I think it really taught me a lot about stamina.
Ah,
Hmm. He, I mean, Sting, he's in such good shape. Like he's vocally, he was amazing every night.
yeah,
He was doing these really long, probably hour and a half to 2 hour performances every single night.
yeah,
And I know that it's like something that we all know happens. Like everyone, these huge artists, they go on tour, they do 2 hour shows every single night for a year or whatever,
right.
or with a few days off. Um, but actually seeing it and actually being on the tour,
Yeah,
I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like I can't, and he's I think he's in his 70s,
it's still, yeah,
and
it's just
honestly, it's unbelievable. I was like, because also we did the tour on a budget and we stayed in Airbnbs. It was the cheapest way to do it. So we
okay.
were like getting like coaches at like 5 a.m. because it was the cheapest coach to get. So we'd wake up after a show like at
Yeah,
5 and then get a coach to the next city. And then we wouldn't be able to check into our next Airbnb until like 3 p.m. So then we'd be like hauling our bags around this city
right.
and then we'd go to the Airbnb, check in, and then it would be like straight to sound check. And it was really, really tiring. That tour, like that was a big takeaway from that tour was like it was amazing, but it was really tiring. And
Yeah,
I remember thinking like I don't know how to do this. Like I don't know how people do this
uh-huh.
because I was not it was physically exhausting and it was vocally exhausting, and by the last show I was almost losing my voice and I
Uh-huh.
did four. And I was just so impressed with him, I think, and the whole band and everyone. But I think especially vocally, like, if you have a cold and you can still play guitar, but
Right.
vocally it's just like, yeah, it was incredible. And I think it taught me a lot about, actually being in that experience. It taught
Hmm.
me a lot about stamina, basically.
Yeah. Wow. So, how long were your bits every night?
Half an hour.
Yours were half an hour, and
Yeah.
he was doing an hour and a half or so, and had seven
To be
done.
fair, because we did it on a budget, it was only me and one musician on stage.
So you had to
So I
carry a lot
really had to
more.
bring it. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
really had to like give it what's so much energy. I was like running around the stage every
yeah.
night, like I was I was all the dancers and I was all
Right.
the backing singers and I was all the parts in the song, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, there can't be a moment where people are bored. So I was really like it was like
Yeah.
really exhausting. And I guess if you had a bigger budget and a bigger, yeah, you'd be able to have moments where you are off stage or you're not
Right.
singing, not dancing, but
Let me introduce you to my drummer, and then you walk off stage, and yeah, that kind of thing.
have a little lie down. Yeah.
Right. Well, so you learned a lot about stamina, and with all of these stages of your singing career, you learn and adapt. What does practicing look like for you? I know just prior to this call you were practicing for a shoot, but when it comes to practicing your singing, do you practice? Do you have like a warm up routine or things that you do, or do you? Is it mainly just on the job training where you're writing a song and doing videos and performing and your voice gets better because of that, or both?
It's mainly, yeah, on the job training. As you said, it's kind of like living, doing music every day, naturally singing every day. Um,
You build your voice through that. You don't build your voice through some particular routine or
no, well, I have a vocal warm up that I do it every time I'm recording
mhm.
properly, like properly recording vocals, like doing a vocal session,
Yeah,
or and also every gig.
yeah.
Um, I should also do it at like rehearsals, but I don't usually, which is bad. I should start to do that. I think I want to, we need to look after our instruments,
Absolutely.
and it's not something that can just every time I
No, you
rehearse,
can't go
I
buy a
should
new
do it.
voice or
Yeah.
put new vocal cords on. You got one.
But yeah, but vocal zones are amazing.
Okay.
I do take a lot of them and they are really good for your voice as well.
Okay. So between
Uh,
vocal zones and a semi consistent warm up, And then other than that, you're practicing on the job while you're writing, recording, and performing, and that's
Yeah.
cool. And it's honestly uh, that's par. That's what most successful career singers do. They don't have some sort of regime. The regime is the creation, and learning and growing through creation. And I think that if you look at other fields, if you even go outside of music, right? People will go to school to become a pilot or something, but you don't really learn how to be a pilot until you are a pilot. You can read about it. You can do, and I think that sort of way of thinking, like, you can learn about being a singer. You can do things that other singers have done, but until you are in a position where you are saying, I'm a singer, and you have things set up to where you're living the life of a vocalist, the life of an artist, you're never going to learn. There has to be that element of on-the-job training in order to be so to put things in your path that cause you to improve as a result, rather than pursuing improvement as the end, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
not necessarily sitting around. You're not sitting around at all, especially now. But you're not sitting around going, I have to get my voice to a certain level before I can go release my next single or film my next video or go on my next tour. You are planning these things. You're actively writing and performing and recording, and as a result, you are getting to that next level because you have the pursuits in the right order. Being good is the result of doing what you do. Being good is not it's not a pursuit in and of itself that enables you to do what you do. It's an interesting, different way of thinking, but you're a living example of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting, it's also like there's so much long other days when a singer was just a singer. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
struggle it's kind of sad. It is sad. I love doing all the other stuff around being an artist, but like it's a shame that I don't get more time to actually just sing,
Yeah.
which is so ironic, you know?
Yeah.
And actually practice. Like I used to do I used to have a really great vocal coach, and I did he'd give me a new song every week,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go away and learn the song, like I mean like meticulously practice it.
Yeah.
Every single run I'd go over it, like that was his way of vocal training. Like
Right.
every single run you'd go over it 30 times until you got it perfectly,
Yep.
and that's not an exaggeration, like 30 times. Like, and it was it was like, yeah, it was like doing homework. I was a bit like, oh, I gotta go home and practice singing. It's so much effort, and like, but also like it's always nice when you're doing it, and um and you sort of forget, you can get lost in being an artist and forget about being a singer, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to pull at that thread a little bit more because your practicing back then was working on little pieces of songs and building those into your voice, building those into the muscle memory of your voice. That's exactly how I train my students. Is
Wow.
we're going to hone this one tiny section. We're not going to try to sing the song all the way through. We're going to learn, and that's why I enjoy breaking down your videos so much, because I will. You see me do it on the videos sometimes, but when that recorder goes off, a lot of times I'm going and and
Yeah.
working those transitions into my voice, and feeling out the differences between, oh, what does it feel like to abandon into my head voice there? What does it feel like to really belt right afterward? Or I'm going to put that in my own range because I feel like I can deal with that from a phrasing vantage point better because I'm not trying to hit those same notes or whatever. But you don't do it as much anymore, but that's really how you cut your teeth, was
Yeah.
taking these small song snippets and going, I'm going to make those mine. I'm going to figure out how I can. You're not necessarily trying to imitate the other artist, although there might be an aspect of that. But really, it's about putting it in your own voice, figuring out what your voice can really do based on that part of a song. I love that you said that. I love that you mentioned that. How
Yeah.
long? How long were you studying that way?
I started with him when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, maybe 7 years I was doing
Seven
that.
7 years of microanalysis on
Yeah.
songs. You can hear it. You can hear it in your
Thank
voice.
you. I'll tell him as well. He'll be really happy.
Yeah, that is super cool to hear that you did that. Do you remember some of the songs that had the most impact on you in that time period?
Oh, Jasmine Sullivan.
Okay.
There was a few Jasmine Sullivan ones, and I was like, Jesus Christ, they were not easy.
Yeah.
She is a beast of a vocal beast. Like she's amazing. Um, there was a lot of like Beyonce, which was also very difficult. They were all difficult, otherwise he has like different folders, and one of them's like diva, one of them's super diva, one of
Yeah.
them's like super diva. I was like
Nice.
in the like I was in the like bulk of the super divas, and doing all the harder songs. Like Love on Top was one of them. um a lot of, yeah, Christina Aguilera songs, Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
It was mainly like runs and things. I think I've always been quite I've always had, well, not always, but I find it easier to sing really, to like really belt. And uh I've I found it easier to learn. I don't really know how to describe it, because it's not like I've always had a really high belt, but I naturally was a bit more like I can sing high and
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
And the details of things is what I find harder. So like
Ah.
melisma, I find that more difficult. Um and like there'll be runs that I'm still like, oh, I can't believe I got that right. I feel like it's hit and miss. Like
Uh-huh.
um I'll be able to do it in a studio version, and then it'll come to doing it live and I'll be like, oh, I'm really dreading that little run. And it's like the tiniest bit that's like, or something. And I'll just like dread it, because I'm like, oh God, that's coming up. And then it's like a really big note right after, and I'll just be like, oh yeah, no, that's easy. That's
Oh,
where I'm comfortable. The runs is where I struggle, and the soft singing.
that's
I struggle with
that's
it more.
that's cool to hear you say that. One of the things I commented on Fingers Live was that your runs are so tastefully subtle, and and they're accurate. I mean, they're good, but they're not in your face. I mean, I love listening to Christina Aguilera, and her agility is. I mean, there's nobody like her, right? Um,
Yeah.
the way she handles runs though are often a lot more in your face. You have this, oh well, that, yeah, she's an agile vocalist. You almost have to listen to your songs several times to appreciate the agility and the level of detail that you have in your runs. And I love that, because there's somewhere to dig, there's somewhere to go. The belty notes, the dynamics, the whisper singing, those stand out immediately because of the contrasts you're drawing. And then the runs, you almost have to like, oh, what just happened? Okay, let me go back. Listen again. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that. And there's one in there, how you're moving your mouth, you sneer during it, and then you very subtly change the vowel, and you don't even. I had to listen to it like 3 or 4 times to realize that the vowel modification was sort of what was helping you bounce along the run in a way. And
Interesting.
I just thought, I love the fact that your flash is subtle. It makes it even more enjoyable because you can do it. You have the chops. But it's almost like, yeah, you know what? I don't need to flaunt that aspect of my singing, because because that's not really the point. The point is I'm going to get you going with the big notes and the dynamic contrasts and I'm going to whisper in your ear, and just when you've leaned in, I'm going to smack you in the face. And then in the meantime, there's going to be this run that I mutter over here that you probably are going to miss because you're still going like this because you just got hit in the face. Like that's how I would
love that.
that's how I would describe your voice. And
I love that so much.
and
That's
it's just
so good.
it's been so fun getting to know your singing, and I can't wait for what's in store for you. I mean, you're going to have a big year. I can tell.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It feels like that currently, but we'll have to see. It feels good right now. It feels like really, really, I'm really grateful, you know.
What would you say, looking forward now, what would you say would be an aspiration that it hasn't come to pass yet in your life and career musically, but looking forward, what is something that you would love to experience?
Every year, me and my housemates, we go and sit in a pub. We bring like paper, loads of colorful pens, and we write down everything that went well last year, things that could have gone better, New Year's resolutions, and goals for the year.
Yeah.
And resolutions is like things like, oh, maybe I'll like, like do more vocal practice, try and do daily vocal practice, or go to the gym, whatever. And goals is more like, what do I want to actually achieve this year? And
Sure.
I feel like that I usually never look back at them through the year, and I have them all written in this one book. So every year I write them in the same book.
Yeah.
I usually never look back at them, but I did hear recently a like study that was done about basically the more you look at your goals that you've written down, the more likely you are to succeed at them or achieve them or whatever, and faster. So I think this year I'm going to look at my goals more. So they're all written down, but they're in here and they're on the paper.
You could turn that light on now if you want, the one that's in front of you. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great.
Is that weird?
It's a little green, but no, it's good. It's good.
It's a green light.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Oh, that's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, really nice. Should have done that a little bit ago. No, that's good. So we've got some questions on YouTube. I put a little post up a little while ago, and so we've got some things there. You're free to pass on any of these questions, but I'd love to ask you some of those now.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. Do you write all your music and lyrics to your songs?
Hell yeah. I love, yeah, definitely. I mean, I work with other people as well. So some of them are co-writes, some of them are co-productions, some of them are produced by other people, but I also produce. So a lot of my songs are like literally start to finish me.
Yeah.
In my shed, little shed studio set up, all written, produced, and everything by me. And I do love working like that as well.
Awesome.
But yeah, I don't think I can't imagine singing something else, something that someone else has written for me.
Yeah.
Entirely, because I think I'd need to feel really, I'd find it hard to feel emotionally really attached to it.
Yeah. Okay. That's Maybe. Awesome. Let's see here. Ask about her little habit of pop-locking poses.
Of what?
Ask her about her little habit of pop-locking poses. In Fingers, it feels like a mockery of what the industry wants from female singers. Like a pose for the male gaze that should be their malleable puppet. And is there any connection to the way she felt as an artist before on your label? I think what the question is getting at, and I think this sort of speaks into your, being a woman and wanting to empower women, and I mean, we all know the whole the objectification Britney Spears era sort of thing. Like, are you are you doing things that mock that?
Terms and
Oh yeah, terms and
conditions.
conditions. Yeah.
So that specific video, I feel like I just wanted to create this world of kind of people that I would hang out with, and it's
Yeah.
I feel like terms and conditions is like I feel like it's like a wonderland of like just like everyone in it has their own, like I feel like everyone in it is giving main character energy, like everyone in it has um their own vibe, their own, like everyone in it was super talented. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I just wanted to get across this like this arty like celebration of different, like different sexes, different just all sorts of different people and how talented they are. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
um yeah, but I think with Fingers, all those characters that I was playing, I actually just love like caricatures and acting, I
Yeah.
think, and I
Music. You are definitely a
uh,
musical actor. That definitely.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. And I think I don't know. I think sometimes like what I was saying earlier about how it's interesting to hear you like analyzing what I'm doing vocally sometimes or whatever, because it's like, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or like I think that's sometimes how I feel about, like um the characters
Yeah.
in Fingers.
Sure.
I just wanted to make all these like caricatures. I wrote backstories for them all. I
Oh
had
yeah.
like a proper like paragraph for each of them that had all these backstories. I really just wanted to get into the like um the like cinema of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I
That's so
wanted to
cool.
properly make um well, I just feel like as the budget gets bigger, I want to proper, like I want to start creating like movie-esque kind of
Yeah.
things. And I think I love I love that. In terms of where the caricatures come from, like what makes me think of certain things. I don't know. Maybe it's subconscious, maybe it's um yeah, I don't exactly know. I don't know.
That's even better than having
And
like a
maybe that's
really
the
good.
good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say it leaves it up to for other people to relate to it in the way that speaks to them most. I think that's just fantastic. Do you feel like there have been times when you've been overproduced? And the follow up question or the explanation for this is I ask this because there seems to me to be much more overall richness and quality in your voice in the live pieces. I find, for example, the live version of Fingers, with just the piano, has so much more emotional content over the official video version. I mentioned that earlier as well. So the question, do you feel like you've been overproduced in the past?
No. No, I can see where that comes from. But I love the live element of stuff. I also love I do love pop music. I
Yeah.
think, like it's an acquired taste, um but I do love it. And like I'm the producer of a lot of
That's
my
right.
songs.
Right.
So it's funny, I do keep seeing a lot of comments like, oh yeah, this is over, the producer really overdid this. And
They're
I'm
just
like,
like, oh, thanks. Well,
no, I like both. I think, like, yeah, I'm a big fan of pop music, and I like that I love when stuff has like a big beat to it.
yeah,
That's what I love listening to. That's what makes me feel empowered. Also, live stuff makes me feel empowered, and it's kind of two different
totally.
worlds. And I guess that's why I do both of them. I love both of
Hmm.
them. And I think that's why I really enjoy making live arrangements of a really poppy song
Yeah.
and making it super, like vocally challenging and
Yeah.
um yeah, I guess more, um impressive in a live way,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
if that
it's
makes
two
sense.
different artistic expressions, right? I love layered vocals and runs going in and out of vocal stacks and an amazing production, but I love hearing the live version that is intentionally not like the studio version, right? It's its own
Yeah.
art form. That's one thing that I've appreciated about listening to some of the stuff that you've done is you treat them. You're not trying to crutch the studio performance. You're making them their own thing. Brilliant and necessary. A lot of fans sense this intense chemistry between you and Ren, and just it's part of what's made those songs so incredible. Do you sense that? Is there something unique in doing a collaboration with Ren versus doing other collaborations versus doing something by yourself?
I think in the way we perform, like for some reason we have this same like genetic thing that we just do.
Yeah.
And that is like it's like it's like finding someone at a party who has the exact same sense of humor as you.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
like, great, I'm gonna have a great night, you know?
yeah. Right.
That's kind of how I feel when I perform with Ren because we have the exact same way of I just think we have the same like I don't exactly know what it is, but I think like you sort of know what I mean. It's like this I guess this intensity, this specific like and I guess it's quite theatrical. Yeah, theatrical. I kind of hate that word
Yeah.
because I think it. I don't want it to come across like it's like it's not. You know, it's not theatrical
Right.
necessarily. But do you know what I mean?
I
It's
do know what
quite
you mean. Yeah.
and I think that is like, you know, it's just so easy to work with someone like that and to make a, you know, to perform with someone like that because we just both are like this energy working off each other and
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's definitely not the same with you know, with everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's quite rare to find a really similar energy to you like that.
Well, I think we've covered quite a lot of ground. Thank you again for taking the time. We've gone from like mid-afternoon sun to completely dark in your
I
room.
know.
It's awesome.
I know. Sorry about
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I'll be looking
that.
forward to following this next year with great attention to detail, and I look forward to hearing what you have coming next.
Thank you so much. I've had the best time, and it's honestly been like so interesting analyzing vocals and things with you. So
Oh,
thank you.
good.